Hey, Charles, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Dan. How are you?
I am well. I'm excited for these next couple of chapters in Atomic Attraction.
Yeah, me too. These are a couple good ones, and they're short, which I like, and hopefully we can get through them fairly quickly. I mean, not too quickly,
So, yeah,
but
what's gone well for you this week?
well, today I had the radiator replaced in my car. I went to the normal drive-through oil change place that I usually go to. And the guy there was like, "Your radiator is done. You need a new radiator." And I was like, okay. And I told you the other day, it's like, on the one hand, okay, you're not a ASE certified mechanic. You're just the guy who works at the oil change place. So I was a little skeptical. But on the other hand, the oil change place does not sell radiator replacements. So there was nothing in it for him to tell me something that wasn't true. So I made an appointment at my usual guy, all the way up in Deltona, which I've been going to him for years and years and years. And I went up there today, and they said, "Yep, you need a new radiator," and it was $911, which is appropriate because that radiator did to my budget what the planes did to the towers.
Ouch! Too soon.
What?
Too soon.
Oh, come on! It's been 22 years. Yeah, but it could have been worse. There were other parts of the cooling system that they said might need replacing, but it was, I think, just the radiator and the thermostat. And so that's done. And now the little thermometer, the little gauge on my dash is not going up into the letter H. It's staying at or below halfway, which is good. And my air conditioner is blowing cold all the time now, not just when I'm doing 80 miles an hour down I-4. So,
and you've got your head out the window.
Yeah. Let me just say this. Well, I don't have to put my head out the window anymore because the AC's cold. So
Nice.
I talked to you months ago about how unfair it is, the difference between the effort it takes to eat 500 calories versus the effort it takes to burn 500 calories.
Oh, for sure. That's a big difference.
The other thing that's not fair is the feeling you get when you spend money responsibly, like $900 on repairing the only tool you have to get you around the state of Florida for all the work you have to do. The feeling of spending that money compared to blowing the money on a cruise or a flight to Hawaii. Like, why does the irresponsible way to spend money feel so much better than the irresponsible feels better than the responsible? This sucks. I hate spending this much money on fixing my car.
You really think going on a vacation is irresponsible?
I disagree with
that. I disagree with that. I totally disagree with that. That reaps really good rewards.
when I book it on a whim, which I often do.
I mean, all that is exciting. It's fun. Yeah, man. That right. I don't look at that as being irresponsible.
But it's not as responsible, certainly, as fixing your car, or repairing your house or something like that. I mean,
I guess it comes back down to your why, right? You need to remember. All right, so what happens if you don't fix your car? Well, then you can't go to work. If you can't go to work, then you're not bringing in money. If you're not bringing in money, you can't go on vacations or do anything,
or pay rent. Or,
yeah. So
buy food,
right? All those little things in life, right? So, yeah, it doesn't make it exciting, but remembering a couple of rows down in terms of why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? Keep asking yourself.
Yeah.
And
I'm definitely a bit of a junkie when it comes to the dopamine of, buying a ticket or buying a trip or something, and then putting it on my Countdown app and looking forward to that trip taking place. It's a wonder I'm not a cocaine addict. I really, that anticipation of the next fun thing is a big part of my life. And I really enjoy that feeling of, okay, I've got it on the calendar. I've got a plan for it. I've got to work out the logistics. I've got to maybe buy a couple things on Amazon that'll make the trip even more fun. And just that. And now I've got a car that works, and I'm just going to forget tomorrow that there was ever a problem with the car. It's just going to work now. Mm-hmm. And there's no dopamine there. There's no dopamine to tap into from a car that just works.
No. And unfortunately, it does require a little bit more effort to see the value of that. So what it does do is it relieves the stress of, so now you don't need to think about it, right? Now it's not stressing you out and you get a little air conditioning. So that's kind of nice. But now you don't need to worry about it. And that allows you then to focus on the more important things for yourself, right? That allow you to be successful and earn that money and get the other fun things like those trips, right? So
you're right.
It's a necessary task or evil. I don't even want to use the word evil, but just a necessary task that it just get it taken care of and then set it on autopilot, right? So you don't need to think about it anymore. The more things I can do with that in my life, the more I can focus on the fun stuff, right?
Yeah, I can see that. I just wish in the moment that it felt great instead of just feeling necessary. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's it's interesting. It's one of those where and I think Glover talks about this, is anything that, I don't know if it was Glover or somebody else was talking about, the things that are like highly refined and down are typically the things we need to be most careful of in terms of causing addictions, as well as spikes in joy and that dopamine, right? So you concentrate down sex to concentrated sex is porn, right? Concentrated,
that's true.
Concentrated cocoa leaves, right, is cocaine. Like drugs, right? You everything's kind of super concentrated.
Refine
it
down.
Refine it down so that really, and when you do that, right, then the spike is high and very quick, and then it comes back down again. Whereas things that give you lasting joy and fulfillment, it's more of like a slow kind of curve and burn, right? And that's one of those things, by having that air conditioning, or working now, and a functioning car in the warm, when it's hot out now, you're more comfortable, right? Maybe you present yourself in a little bit of a more energetic, better way to your client when you're getting out of a car from a long trip. And it's not a spike in happiness, but over time it provides better results. And so, unfortunately, though, a lot of times, in order to realize that, it takes a little effort and time to think through it, to remind yourself, oh yeah, I am getting something good out of this, right? I get that.
Yeah,
right? It's not as obvious.
Yeah, I think my takeaway is that the people who are the most fulfilled are the ones who grow their own coca leaves and refine the cocaine themselves, like the holistic cocaine grower who goes basically from farm to table with his cocaine, where he starts it as, gets some seeds and grows it all the way, and then mixes it with the gasoline and the baby laxative or whatever they use to make cocaine. I don't know. And then turns it in, gets it from a sprout to the white powder pile on his desk.
Yeah. And then it's all about the journey at that point, right?
Exactly.
It's not so much about the end result. It's about the journey.
Okay. All right. Well, that's an important lesson for all of our listeners. You should definitely start raising your own cocaine from scratch and making it. And I'm sure there are recipes on the internet for how to do that. It's nothing.
We'll put a link in the bottom of the show notes on how to make your own cocaine.
The anarchist cookbook and the directions for how to make your own cocaine.
So speaking of excitement, but a little bit on a slow level, some of our equipment came in for creating our podcast studio.
I was going to ask you about that. Yeah. What's arrived?
We've got the lighting equipment and we've got the curtains. So now we're waiting for the rods and the rug
and the desks.
And the desks. Yeah.
Cool.
But it's showing up. And as I'm dropping it in the room, it's starting to look a little bit real. It's kind of cool. We need to take some befores. We need to take some before pictures, see what a mess the thing is right now.
Yeah.
So
Renata
we're
just
done.
Mentioned that Wednesday when I was talking to her.
Maybe a couple of videos of us, talking about it or whatever. I think that would be great for.
That's a great idea. feel free to snap a pic or two if you want to, since it's just down the hall from you. And next time, are we getting together on Tuesday night? Are you still around and available for that?
Yeah. Okay, yes,
cool. So we'll start working with whatever we received at that point. I mean, really, I guess the carpet has to go down first before we can do much else, and that's like the last thing that we're going to get, right?
Yeah. Right. Exactly.
Yeah, that's how it goes.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. No big deal. But yeah, I've got some of the electronic equipment in my car that I'll drop off on Tuesday. And, I just ordered a couple more long, cords for our phones so that our phones can be charging while they're being used as cameras and all that stuff. So yeah, I'm excited to get that room going. We just put out, as I said in the notes from the last episode that we released yesterday. Yeah, yesterday. No, this morning. I think it was this morning at 5. I'm playing a little bit of catch up. I missed my release schedule a little bit thanks to I had that 1, 2, 3 of out of town business trip followed by COVID followed by moving day, and so I got a little bit behind. I got a little behind releasing podcast episodes. So I put one out this morning. I'm going to put one out on Monday morning, and then I'll probably do one Wednesday or Thursday of next week, and then we'll be all caught up with what people are used to.
Sounds good.
Yeah, so that'll be 85, 86, and 87, and our goal is to have number 100 be recorded at your studio.
We're cutting it close here with this.
I think we'll be okay, but
based on it, I think we will be too. But yeah,
it is going to be close. You're going back to New Jersey, right?
I am next weekend.
Okay,
Thursday,
just for the weekend.
Friday through Monday. Yeah, I'll be back Monday evening.
Gotcha.
Yep.
All right, well, that shouldn't interrupt our schedule too much. But yeah, I'm excited about seeing how things look with. We're certainly only engaging in, I would say, hobbyist or enthusiast level equipment, but I think we're going to get a pretty good result from redecorating that room of yours.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what we can create.
Do you have an ETA on the curtain rods? Do we know when they're going to get here?
I'll tell you in a second. Let's see here.
I'm just trying to decide if I should bring my my power screwdriver with me when I come see you on Tuesday.
I've got a power screwdriver and drill and all that stuff. Yeah, I got the stuff we can hang. Yeah. No worries there. So Wednesday are the rods.
Darn.
Monday are the rug, and then Monday are the desks.
Okay, gotcha. So are you back in town the following Tuesday?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay, so we're not going to miss a Tuesday.
No.
Perfect.
No, we will not.
That's cool. All right, great. I will. I'll plan on getting your place around 6 on both days, and that should be what we need.
Sounds good.
Yeah, it's exciting. I'm looking forward to getting that done and being able to sit across the table from you instead of on either Zoom or Zoom-like application.
Yeah, it should be interesting. A lot different having a conversation that's not over Zoom through headphones. I feel like it's going to be a little bit different. So I'm curious.
We won't even have to wear headphones. It's going to be crazy.
Right. I was about to buy a backup pair because this one's tearing up, and I'm like, wait a minute, I won't need this anymore. So I'm excited. I think it's going to look good.
Yeah, and I was looking at
and thank you for kind of for pushing and organizing this and taking the lead in terms of getting this done. You're the one that's definitely driving a lot of this, and so I appreciate the effort that you're putting in for this.
Oh, it's no problem. I love researching and picking out stuff, and then
good.
I love buying it, and I love when you buy half of it even more. It's great.
It's the least I can do.
I get all the fun of researching and picking stuff out, and then I only have to buy half the things that I like. You buy the other half. Perfect.
That's a great partnership.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to getting those desks and just being able to sit across from each other and have a conversation. I think it'll feel a lot more like the stuff you and I just sit there and get into when we're, hanging out at happy hour or going out to Mathers, and we just start getting into stuff.
Even at my dining room table.
Yeah, especially at your dining room table. Yeah, we've had some important conversations there.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about, we're going to try to power through a few topics here. Setting dates.
Flaking
and,
right?
and having dates canceled on you. And let's see, what's the other one? Maybe we'll get into going no contact.
Okay.
All right. So first of all, setting dates. It's rare that a male or a man and woman in a heterosexual relationship, in most cases, the path to that first date happens because the man is willing to express romantic interest and offer an invitation to a date, and then the woman accepts that invitation, and they set a date and time and place, and they both are there, and then they have their first date, right? So if you are expecting that first date to happen through another path that doesn't involve you having to be the one to say, hey, I would like to meet you for coffee, drink, dinner, movie, walk around the lake, whatever it is that you'd like to do. If you want that to happen, but you're unwilling to put yourself out to say, I would like to do this activity with you, then it is unlikely that that date will ever happen, right?
Correct.
I'm not saying it can't happen. No. I'm not saying, there are plenty of times when either women will make the initiative to ask a man out, or you can sort of kind of back end your way into a date with a girl. Those things happen, but I would say they happen rarely compared to the man offering an invitation and the woman accepting.
Yep. That's been my experience as well.
So if you're interested in a woman and you'd like to go on a date with her, you should know that your best odds of making that date happen are to say something along the lines of, I'd like to go out on a date with you. I mean, not those words exactly. I'm just saying that's the idea that you need to you need to be willing to communicate the idea that this is a thing that you want, and ask her if she'd like to do it too.
Okay. So, I mean, this seems like very obvious.
It does seem that way.
Right. So I would just like to get into it a little bit with you. Like, it sounds though like there are some people out there where perhaps it's not so obvious too. Have you
such as me when I was 20 years old?
Oh, really?
Oh, so of course.
Give me a little bit of a background.
I mean, I'm just thinking of situations where we talk, this is a recurring topic for us, where you have a girl that you're friends or friendly with, you're interested in her, she doesn't know you're interested in her, and you're worried about being honest about your romantic interest, because as soon as you are, then she has the opportunity and she gets the chance to say, no thanks, I'm not into it. And then that feels bad. So you try to figure out ways to hang out with her, spend time around her, go on dates with her without actually having to say that you want any of those things. Because if you don't say you want any of those things, then she can't reject you.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, do you think when you were doing that, and I've done that too, absolutely, when I was younger. I know for me, I guess I was just waiting for a clear and present signal from her that was basically the equivalent of taking out an ad on a billboard to say, yeah, it's okay to ask me out, or yeah, I like you, right? Which never comes.
Right.
What about you?
Yeah, that's the thing. I don't even know. I don't think, a couple of the girls that I found myself in that position with were offering any of those signals, but I don't even know that I would have had the experience or the confidence to recognize them, even if I saw them or even if they were happening. You know what I mean? I think anything short of her asking me out, saying, hey, I'd like you to take me out on a date this time, this place, anything less than that, I still probably would have been like, oh, I'm not sure if she really likes me. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
I think it unlikely that, and the thing to remember is, the whole thing comes from what we believe our rejection tolerance is versus what it actually is, right? We I think as men, many of us believe that our rejection tolerance, how bad it'll hurt, how long that hurt will last, how hard it'll be to get over it. We build it up in our minds to be worse than it actually would be. I mean, this being rejected by a girl that you've never gone out on a real date with or told what your true feelings were, it's not the same as, the end of a marriage or the end of a long-term dating relationship. It's like, yeah, you think it'll hurt for her to say, no, I don't want to go on a date with you. And it will, but it's not something that is going to be unrecoverable from.
Yeah. I think, and I'm definitely guilty of this, what happens sometimes is when you find somebody that you're attracted to, your brain starts to come up with these other scenarios, these ideas, these visions, if you will, of what that could look like in the future, right? You come up with some of these scenarios, different, going on vacation or meeting the family or, and I think the problem is the more you do that, the more it builds up this, I guess, value that you're potentially going to risk losing by asking her out and her rejecting you, right? So the way around that is, ask quickly before your brain spins out of control and comes up with all these scenarios, right? That's one thing that I would recommend. Or preoccupy yourself with a lot of other things in your life, so that you don't have time to think about all of these scenarios that don't exist, by the way, in your mind. And because of that, you also are then spreading your time and energy and value among other things so that there's less dependency on the imaginary relationship you have with this other person in your mind. Right. And those are all things I didn't do when I was younger.
Yeah, no, you're right. And because of that, I fell into, being just a friend with a lot of, oh, you're too good of a friend. When I finally do have the weak, I guess, confrontation, if you will, about saying, hey, look, let's, I like you, or let's go out or whatever. It was just, many times in college, especially, that happened to me, where it's like, oh, you're a buddy, you're a friend. I couldn't ever, see you that way. And so it's just, I just waited too long. And I was also probably very visibly uncomfortable when hanging out with that person. I wasn't like a relaxed, hey, treating her like a friend. It was probably very obvious to people that, I had some sort of feelings going on here that were being suppressed. Yeah. Not only were you suppressing your feelings, but I mean, when you're also suppressing what is arguably the most attractive thing about a heterosexual man, which is his confidence.
Well, yeah, for sure. And you're showing the exact opposite.
Exactly. Yeah. So,
yeah.
And it's funny how we have that, so many of us can have that confidence in other areas of our lives, the way, we interact with our hobbies, the way we interact with people at work. But then when it comes to interacting with a woman we're attracted to, it's like, no, that's completely different. But doesn't have to be. I mean, you can put your best self forward in every situation. It just takes developing a little different set of skills to do that. So, so the thing to remember is that first date's going to happen because you are willing to put yourself out and ask for that first date to happen. Let's talk about the logistics that typically work the best. So in addition to, doing it on I believe doing it on a somewhat compressed time scale, meaning as soon as you've decided that you'd like to go on a date with her, that's when you should ask her to go on a date with you. You shouldn't ruminate on it. You shouldn't strategize on it for an extended period of time. Once you decide that that's something that you think you would enjoy, you should ask her out. And then when and where and what should you do? Here are the things that I find work for me. First dates, and the author does agree, so we're kind of on the same page for this. I think first dates should be something
Netflix and chill.
Yeah. text her at 3 a.m. and ask her if she's up.
You up?
Yeah. No,
I am.
I-O. Yeah. So, I mean, depending on what you're looking for, I mean, I suppose that is a way to go.
Okay. Option A.
Yeah. Or you can suggest a weeknight date with some sort of built-in start time and end time. So what I would usually recommend is either happy hour drinks right after work or coffee. I mean, for the non-drinkers, probably coffee, like me. So either coffee or a drink right after work for happy hour, or a little later at night, so you both have a chance to get dinner. I generally would not recommend you do dinner as your first date with someone, because, like I said, there is no built-in time for it to be over. It can go a little bit too long. The first date is really to just, I think the first date is to allow you both to look at each other for disqualifiers, look for deal breakers. You go on that first date and you say, okay, is there anything about this person that tells me here's a good reason why I shouldn't go on a second date with them?
Yeah.
And
there's
that's
a
what
lot
you should both be looking for.
Yeah. There's a lot going on with that. It's okay. Do they show up for the date? Do they show up on time for the date? What did they wear to the date? Did it look like they cared about, showing up, right? And what they're wearing? How do they interact with the staff at the place that you're meeting, right?
Yeah, for sure.
How do they carry on a conversation? How you've been talking to them up to this point, is that consistent with how they're behaving in public and in person, right? There's so many things to really be focused on in terms of evaluating if this is a good match for you. You really shouldn't, I shouldn't use the word shouldn't. I'm trying to get rid of that in my vocabulary, right? So I would say I think it's a mistake to do anything other than what you said, is just kind of evaluate the other person to see if they do the basic things that you expect in a partner of any type of relationship to be able to do, right? And so it's more of an evaluation and not so much a test. And I think when I was younger, I didn't quite understand that. And I looked at it as either I was being tested or I had some sort of greater expectation or outcome in mind, for that date, especially for the first one. And that never went well.
Yeah, I would agree with all that. I think that, trying to go into a first date and only looking for the green flags and ignoring the potential red flags.
Rose-colored glasses. Yeah.
Yeah, that is not the way to do it. Your number one job and her number one job should be, what are the things about this person that tell me I'd be wasting my time to continue dating them? And
I feel like women are naturally better at doing that.
Yeah,
right?
I think so too.
For whatever reason. Yeah.
I mean, I think a lot of guys will be pretty much focused on how pretty she is, and that is the primary thing that will let you determine whether you want/need to go on a second date with her.
Yeah, and I think probably for women, they naturally they're constantly, I think, evaluating situations, because I feel my impression from some of the stuff that we've been reading, listening to, is that they feel threatened in terms of their safety quite often. And so that would be something that a skill set that they've developed, is really kind of evaluating situations and people for threats. And that probably translates really well in terms of, a fit for a potential mate or boyfriend. So I feel like maybe that's perhaps why they go slow at in the beginning of a lot of relationships, because they've got things to be concerned about. I think if we were in that same spot, we'd be the same way. We wouldn't be so focused on just, the sex part or what she looks like, because we'd be too concerned about her safety or whatever that might be. And because we don't have to, he does talk about, this kind of in follow-up dates, is that, we rush to have a follow-up date regardless sometimes of how the first date went. And that's not again, we're kind of rushing the process there. It also kind of shows that, as he mentions, is we're not really in control of our emotions. We let our urges just kind of take over, and we can't control them. And that's not a good thing.
Yeah, I would. And he talks a little bit about the timeline here he's in kind of vague terms, but I'll give an actual timeline that I think is probably has worked for me, which is generally, say you meet a girl, whether it's on a dating app or in person while you're out, or, friend of a friend, you go to the beach or go to brunch with some friends and you meet a girl that, you're kind of interested in. My recommendation, and you and I have both had the problem where we schedule a date too far out because we've got travel or we've got work or we've got whatever. And then things just kind of cool out to the point where the date never actually materializes. Right. So what I was thinking about that's
not that long ago. Yeah. I mean, that was literally a couple of years ago. I mean, where I would do that. I'd be like, oh, this is great. I'll just fill up my calendar. Right. And
right. If it's too far out. Especially if you're trying to, take some of the previous advice, which is, not have a texting relationship with her nonstop for 3 weeks before you actually get to see each other. You're not constantly texting her, keeping yourself sort of front of mind that way. You're not seeing her. It's, in most cases, it's probably going to cool down. So what has worked for me is, ask her out on like a Monday and try to schedule it for a Wednesday or Thursday night. And that seems to be about the sweet spot, where if the girl's interested, if she does actually want to go on a date with you and want to see you, then usually that sort of 48, 72 hour window seems to be pretty decent at converting to an actual meetup. So I would say, ask her out for a date to occur 2 to 3 days in the future.
Yep. What about asking her out for a weekend night?
Yeah, generally not as good as weekday because, number one, I think there's a little bit more expectation and pressure, because we have fewer weekend nights than we have weeknights, so they're a little bit more valuable. So that can put on a little bit more pressure and expectation. The other thing is a lot of people choose. I mean, look at you and me. We set up our weekends to spend generally with our friends or our family. In your case, we don't usually spend. Setting up a first date on the weekend doesn't usually seem to be the best move. Weeknights and with those weeknight dates, I would say, do what you can. Don't just make up an excuse. Don't make up a fake timeline, but set some sort of a start time and end time where you only meet somebody for about an hour. And
I think on both sides, I think that's a good idea, because that way it minimizes her uncomfortableness, because if she's not into you, knowing that she's got an end time, or that you've established a mutual end time, it feels a lot less awkward. It's a lot less risky for her to agree to it, because she knows it's going to be over at some point. Whereas if you leave it open-ended, which also can happen easily on a weekend, because most people don't have work commitments the next day. Right. It can just bleed into anywhere. And at that point, now she has to be the bad guy to kind of like end things if things aren't going well for her. And women, I mean, they're very good at, delivering bad news. I feel like they turn down guys in a very kind way. They just something that's a skill that they hone. Right. And I think that's just part of being a woman is that's just, they are approached, and, more often than they need to do the approaching. And so what they need to do is, when they're not interested, they need to find ways to gracefully and kindly, decline things in a way that's not going to piss the guy off or trigger anything, so again, it's another skill set that they've developed. Unfortunately, a lot of guys, when it is a little bit graceful, they don't get the message. They don't get, and we'll kind of keep at it. Right.
Yes. Yeah. The thing to remember is, if you do set up that limit of you're going to date her for an hour, and at the end of the date, you're going to say goodnight and go home. You need to be committed to that, no matter how good or bad it goes. Well, I wouldn't say how bad it goes. You're allowed to leave early for sure. But if it goes really, really great, it's even more important for you to end it at the 1 hour mark, like you said you were going to do, instead of turning it into.
Why? I mean, if things are rocking and rolling, then why would I want to end it?
You won't want to end it, but you should end it anyway, because then you'll both look forward even more to the next date. If you, I mean, number one, you'll prove that you're somebody who, when you set a time, you stick to it. We're going to meet at 6 and I've got to hit the road at 7 to get back home. And then you do that. And so that's good. That's a thing that's recommended. And then I believe that it will also increase how forward she looks to seeing you for the second date. And with that one, if you had a great time and you think that she did too, then, feel free to set a longer window for the second date. Say, okay, meet me at, maybe you want to do dinner for the second date, or let's meet for coffee and then go for a walk, and you can do 2 hours instead of 1 hour. But I would say for that first date, now, I guess there is another scenario where you're just looking to hook up with somebody, and hopefully that will take longer than an hour from the point that you meet her until the point that you're done. Ideally, that'll be a longer than an hour experience from start to finish. If that's what you're looking for, then then by all means don't. But if you're looking to build a dating relationship with someone, I think a good first step is to say, okay, I'm going to meet you for coffee. We'll meet at 6 and be done by 7, or meet at 5, be done by 6, whatever it is. Meet for an hour, leave after an hour, and then if it went well, ask for a second date. And if it didn't, say, it was nice meeting you, and I wish you the best in all your future endeavors, or whatever it is that you want to say.
And a punch on the shoulder. Yeah. So you are advocating then to ask for the second date before the first date is over?
No. I would not do that. I would wait until I would let your hormones and your emotions calm down at least overnight before you ask for the second date. I would say wait till the next day, probably.
Okay. And then any advice on how to end the first date?
Pull a fire alarm and run out of the place screaming.
Okay, excellent, great. Okay, fantastic. That's exactly what I was looking for.
Are you asking about whether to kiss them, whether to hug them, whether to
or correct, or even let's back up.
Okay.
Let's say you're meeting somebody from a dating app for the first time on a first date. What kind of greeting should you give them? Is this a hug, a kiss on the cheek, a handshake?
Probably not a handshake. I would say, I think I generally hug on a first date, and I don't know if I've ever kissed somebody on the cheek on the first date.
Okay.
I know you're a kisser.
Yeah, I am. When you hug the person, are you touching is it any kind of cheek to cheek hug, or is it just a body hug? Is it a bro hug where, you kind of keep your crotch out a little bit and just kind of like a chest bump kind of thing? How affectionate you feel like we need to be here with this hug?
Good question. I don't know that I've ever thought about any of this. I definitely have not done side hugs. I don't do side hugs.
Okay. All right. We're finding it. Okay.
Let's see. I'm trying to remember if I go arms over or arms under. I think probably arms under.
Yeah.
But it's hard for me to remember for sure. I've never really thought about my hug technique for that initial introduction. Okay. I don't know. There may be a YouTube video worth looking up for this.
Yeah, I've scaled it back for me. I don't go for a kiss on the cheek or anything anymore. I mean, coming from the Northeast, that seems to be a very common thing up there. When you don't even like a stranger, or you kind of know somebody, it's more common. Down here, not so much in Florida. It's, there's a lot of side hugging going on, a little bit more conservative, I feel, greetings. So I've scaled that back to just a friendly hug, real quick kind of thing. And I'll initiate it, and it'll be a quick, hey, I it's nice to see you. I care about you. And that's, enough to show up for the date. Right. And there's something I like about you, but I don't, and I feel like it's just a little safer to be a little bit more on the conservative side. At least that's the way I feel about it when it comes to the physical touching, at least that initial greeting. And then, I'll let them, if they want to be, more physical, I've got no problem with that. But I let them kind of dictate what that looks like. So.
Yeah, I would say I would probably avoid the side hug and pats on the back while you're hugging. Those do seem to be a little too buddy. That communicates, hey, you're my buddy. I would say not you're somebody I'm interested in.
Maybe like a gentle, just like maybe a little gentle squeeze on the shoulders or something like that. I don't know. That's probably how I do it. I don't even think about it. Yeah.
If anybody's got any videos on this.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
okay, there are some how to greet a girl on a first date. So I will go through some of these and see if there's any worth dropping in the notes section, and if there are, I will do so.
Great, excellent.
And then at the end of the date, if I have any romantic interest in a girl, I'm trying to kiss her on the first date.
Okay, so let's get into this. Now, where would that kiss happen? Where do you feel like
on her lips?
Okay. Touche. I've walked right into that. That's fantastic. So where do you feel like you are in the right moment, or do you craft a moment? Where do you feel comfortable, being vulnerable and reaching in for that kiss?
Well, if you
and what signs do you look for during the date to say, "Yep, I'm going to go for it. I'm going to go for the kiss"?
The only sign I look for on the day is, and this is kind of just a matter of, I trust myself. If I'm feeling it, if I'm feeling attracted to her, if I'm feeling like we're vibing, if I want to kiss her, I assume that she will want to kiss me back.
Okay. So
I really only go based on, and if I'm not getting sort of those indicators of interest on a subconscious level, then I'm not going to feel like kissing her. So there's probably more to share here than I'm thinking about, but for the most part, I just go by how I'm feeling, and I assume that how I'm feeling is occurring in the context of how she's feeling and acting toward me as well.
Okay, so the indicators of interest that you look for, do any of them need to be physical, or
yes,
verbal?
Well, again, I will have, in the case of a girl that I'm going to want to kiss at the end of the night, there's going to already be some mutual touching, whether that's touching her arm while we're talking, touching her leg while we're talking, touching her hair at some point. I mean, usually something like that will have already happened. And again, I'm only going to feel like doing those things if I'm attracted to her, if I'm having a good time, and if I'm feeling like the energy's coming from her as well. And so, a lot of this, it really is happening at a level below the surface. But with the kissing, the thing that I will usually do to avoid anything that feels a little, I mean, it's not fun to go in for a kiss and then have her give you the cheek or back away. So it could happen. And to make that easy on her, what I generally will do is, and I forget where I heard this or read this, but basically you look in her eyes, then you look down at her lips, then you look back at her eyes, and you move in for the kiss very slowly, so that if she doesn't want to kiss you back, she has plenty of time to react in a way that makes that clear.
Yeah. I think that's a great way of approaching it. Yeah.
What I don't recommend is asking her if it's okay to kiss her, or something like that, which I feel like
we don't want to get her to sign a contract that says she gives consent.
No, we do not endorse the idea of consent on this podcast. No, of course we don't want to do anything to somebody that they don't want to do, but also the stopping what you're doing. And I've talked to girls about this before, and the idea of asking them if you can hold their hand, if you can, get that first peck on the lips, is not. Now, as you escalate further, then by all means there are things that you should check in with them verbally on before you do. But I would say, the first time you try to hold a girl's hand, or the first time you try to give her a peck on the lips, I've done that without asking. And look, I'm completely open to the idea of that's wrong, I shouldn't do that. Somebody has a really great argument why that's not the way to be. I'm just completely going off of my own experience and what has worked in the past and what girls have told me they don't like guys to do, which is stopping the romance so that you can say, would it be okay if I held your hand? Would it be okay if I kissed you? I found a better way to handle that is just to move very slowly so they have ample time and look for, even if they don't say, no, don't kiss me. If you move slowly and you see that they react in a way that they're not into it, then don't continue trying to kiss them.
Larry David has a great episode in Curb Your Enthusiasm about the whole consent thing. And he puts it on video with him and a girl sitting at the couch and just goes through this whole thing. She's giving me consent now to put my arm on her shoulder. And it's overdone. It's hysterical. It's one I definitely recommend you watch.
So on his show, does he go from being married to not being married on the show?
Yes, correct,
okay, gotcha.
Yep.
Okay. Yep. Because I've only seen like the first 2 or 3 episodes, and I was like, wait, isn't he married? So that makes sense that he gets divorced and then starts dating.
I mean, I think there's 10 or 11 seasons. So yeah.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
There may be more. Yeah, I don't remember, but there's a lot. So he goes all over the place, and it's fantastic to watch because a lot of them are similar storylines to what he does in Seinfeld, and then you can kind of identify, but slightly different, and it's still hysterical. Still hysterical.
So you're seeing it more from the George side of the story, right? Than the Jerry side.
Yeah. And all the characters are more extreme than they are in Seinfeld, but you can see like this, the neighbor is like Elaine, and this guy and that guy are kind of like a Kramer. Good stuff. Really good stuff.
All right. I'm trying to decide if we should stop there or if I think we should stop there and then do a separate episode for flaking and no contact. Is that cool with you?
That works for me.
All right. Let's go ahead and we'll stop there. And then the next episode, we'll talk about flaking, which will be pretty quick. We'll go along with some of the reasons that someone would break a date at late notice. And that's what we're calling flaking. And that is certainly not exclusively the experience of something that just women do to men. Men will certainly do that to women too. And we will share what I believe is the 100% foolproof, perfect response to somebody breaking plans for a date with little notice. And it's not my idea. It's something I got off of one of the mental health dating accounts I follow on Instagram. And it just struck me as, oh my gosh, that's the perfect thing to say every time this happens. And we'll share that next time.
Yeah. And I'm going to counter that and talk about the perfect way to flake on a date. So it'll be great. It's going to be a real hoot.
Excellent. All right. We'll talk to you later, Dan. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.